Up to now, the stories I've shared with you were born from ancient pacts, from whispered legends and fears hidden in the folds of folklore. These were secrets guarded by communities, by families, by traditions. But there's another kind of secret, a more modern, colder, and perhaps more relentless type, the corporate secret. Large industries, in their incessant search for resources, dig deeper than any explorer, map territories no government knows, and sometimes they find things that weren't on geological maps, anomalies that defy science and common sense. And when that happens, the protocol isn't superstition or prayer. It's a confidentiality agreement, a mass dismissal, a fabricated bankruptcy, silence bought with money and fear. We spend our entire lives inhabiting this body, feeling the world through it. Touch, smell, pain, joy, and the constant sound that accompanies us from beginning to end, the beat of our own heart. It is the soundtrack of our existence, the proof that we are here, alive. But what happens when the body stops? When the heart beats its last beat and silence takes over? Where does consciousness go? The energy? The essence of what we were? Science calls this the end. Religion calls it a passage. And after everything I've seen, I call it the great question. In my investigations, I've already encountered predatory, parasitic, alien consciousnesses. But the story I bring today is about a different kind of echo, a human echo, an echo that refuses to accept the silence. Good evening, or good morning. I am the Enigma. Today's investigation was not brought to me by a fear, but by a haunting, and by a plea for help from a healthcare professional, a woman who lives on the border between life and death every day, and who witnessed something her science cannot explain. Today, we will enter the ICU of a hospital here in London, and we will investigate a room that is empty, but whose heart continues to beat. And before we put on our masks and enter this environment, if you have also wondered what exists on the final frontier, leave your like to join this vigil. And if you are new here, seeking answers to the mysteries that surround us, subscribe to the Enigma channel and hit the bell. Today, more than ever, we will need an open mind and a deep respect for what we are about to find. Let's begin. It all started with an email with the subject, "I see you anomaly. I need help." The sender, Claire, introduced herself as a night shift nurse at St. Jude's Hospital, one of the largest and oldest in London. Her text was a mixture of clinical professionalism and contained dread. I will read it to you. Dear Enigma, I've worked in the intensive care unit for 12 years. I am a woman of science. I believe in facts, in data, in logical explanations. Or at least I did. I am writing to you as a last resort, because what is happening here defies everything I have learned. It's about room 207. 3 months ago, the patient who occupied it passed away. Since then, the room has been empty, awaiting a new long-term patient. But it is not truly empty. Every night, almost always around 3 a.m, the cardiac monitor on bed 207, which is in standby mode, turns on by itself, and it begins to record a heart rhythm. A perfect electrocardiogram tracing, with a normal sinus rhythm between 60 and 70 beats per minute, as if there were a perfectly healthy patient lying in the bed. But the bed is empty. At first, we thought it was a faulty piece of equipment. We swapped the monitor 3 times. We changed the wiring, the electrodes. The phenomenon continues. The maintenance team found no explanation. It happens with any monitor we place there. The hospital administration knows, but is treating it as a complex electrical fault and has forbidden us to talk about the matter to avoid creating panic. But we, the night staff, who see it happen, we know it's not a fault. We feel it. There is a presence in that room. I am sending you 2 short videos I recorded with my phone, hidden. The quality is terrible, but it is proof. Please, I don't know if I'm going crazy or if I'm witnessing a miracle or a nightmare. I only know that the beat of that invisible heart no longer lets me sleep. I opened the videos. They were exactly what she described. The shaky image showed an empty hospital bed, and in the corner, a cardiac monitor with its green light drawing the rhythmic wave of a pulsating heart. The constant sound of the beep dot 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 beep dot 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 single quote breaking the silence of an empty room. It wasn't a monster. It wasn't a threat. It was a sign of life where there should only be silence. And in some way, that was infinitely more disturbing. I met Claire at a bakery near the hospital. She was a strong woman, with a tired look, but with obvious intelligence and compassion. She was clearly risking her job to seek answers. It's not scary in the sense of being frightening, she told me, stirring her coffee with trembling hands. It's sad and profoundly strange. We feel we shouldn't disturb it. It's as if someone is resting there. Who was the patient? I asked. His name was Arthur, she replied, a sad smile touching her lips. Arthur Newman. He spent almost 5 years with us, in room 207. A car accident left him in a deep coma. His family gave up after the first year. But we, the nurses, never gave up. There was something about him. Even in a coma, he seemed present. Sometimes his monitors would stabilize when we talked to him. He was our miracle patient, and he died suddenly, peacefully. His brain simply shut down, and a week later, his heart, or whatever it is, returned. With his name in hand, my investigation began, and what I discovered made the story even more complex. Arthur Newman was not a common man. Before the accident, he was a physicist and a researcher at the State University, and his area of study was considered radical, almost pseudoscience by his peers. I found articles and an old blog of his. The title of his doctoral research was The Hypothesis of the Residual Bioelectric Field, Evidence of Postmortem Consciousness Persistence as an Electromagnetic Imprint. He was not a religious man. He was a scientist who believed that human consciousness was a form of complex energy, a bioelectric field generated by the brain, but which, theoretically, could sustain itself on its own for a time after the failure of the biological hardware. He believed that, under certain conditions, this imprint of consciousness could interact with sensitive electronic equipment. In his last blog post, weeks before the accident, he wrote, "They call me crazy, but the proof is there. The reports of voices in audio recordings, of images in TV static, are not ghosts. They are echoes of consciousness, imprints of a life, trapped in the electromagnetic fabric around us, looking for a way to manifest. We just need the right receiver." My body shivered. Room 207. With its electronically rich environment, with a body in a coma, serving as a focus for years, would it have become the perfect receiver? And the cardiac monitor, would it be the loudspeaker that Arthur's echo found to prove his theory was correct? I needed to witness it. Claire, taking an enormous risk, devised a plan. I would enter the hospital at the end of visiting hours with a visitor's bracelet from another patient. She would hide me in a small disused break room, which had a glass window overlooking the ICU corridor. From there, I would have a, albeit partial view of the door to room 207. The most important thing, however, was the connection. Claire managed to connect the monitor from 207 to the hospital's internal Wi-Fi network, so that I could see the live feed on a tablet. The night in the ICU is a universe apart. It's a silent ballet of professionals moving with efficiency, under the cold light and the constant symphony of beeps and alarms from the machines that keep people alive. I was there, an intruder, my heart beating in sync with the fear of being discovered. I spent hours in the small room, just watching the screen of my tablet. It showed the image from a security camera pointed at the empty bed of 207. And in the corner of the screen, the window of the cardiac monitor software. A straight, green line. Lifeless. Midnight. 2 a.m. nothing. I began to doubt. Maybe it was an intermittent phenomenon. That wouldn't happen tonight. And then, at 3:07 a.m., it happened. Here begins what's truly scary. The straight green line on the monitor screen trembled. For an instant. And then, a first beep sounded loud and clear in my headphone, followed by another and another. The straight line was transformed into a wave. A perfect electrocardiogram tracing. A stable sinus rhythm, pulsing at 72 beats per minute. I looked at the image of the empty bed and heard the unmistakable sound of a living heart. The cognitive dissonance was overwhelming. It was like looking at the sky and seeing it purple. It was a truth my brain refused to accept. I recorded the screen of my tablet, my hands trembling. I had the proof. Proof that no one in the world would believe. But it was there. A phantom heart, beating in the solitude of an ICU room. But the investigation couldn't stop there. The proof of life was only half the question. The other half was there consciousness behind that beat? I remembered Arthur's research. Consciousness can be influenced by external stimuli. I needed to test it. I sent a message to Claire, who was at her post. Claire, I need you to do something. Go into 207. Say you're going to check the equipment. And talk to him. She hesitated. Talk about what? She replied. Anything. Talk about your day. But speak calmly, as you used to when he was here. I saw on the camera when Claire entered the room. She approached the empty bed, her face a mixture of fear and compassion. She took a deep breath and began to speak. Hi, Arthur ... single quotes, she said, her voice low. It's me, Claire. Quiet night tonight, thank goodness. Mrs. Davison from 205 finally got discharged. We were happy for her ... As she spoke, I kept my eyes fixed on the monitor window on my tablet, and I saw it. The rhythm, which was at 72, slowly dropped. 71, 70, 69, 68. It stabilized at a calmer, more relaxed rhythm. Keep going, Claire, I typed. She continued to talk about trivial things, about the soap opera, about her football team. And the heart rhythm remained there, stable and calm. Then I asked for the second step. Now mention something stressful. Talk about the accident on the avenue, the one that came into the emergency room earlier. Claire's expression changed. She took a deep breath again. Arthur ... You won't believe it. A young man came in, a bad motorbike accident, a lot of trauma. We rushed with him, but the situation is very serious. We don't know if he'll make it through the night ... single quotes. The reaction was instantaneous. The rhythm on the monitor skyrocketed. 80, 90, 105, 115 beats per minute. The tracing became irregular. Sinus tachycardia. A classic body response to stress, to anxiety, to empathy. Stop, Claire. Change the subject, I typed in a panic. But he's already been transferred, Arthur. He's stable. She said to the empty bed, her voice now soft. He's going to be fine. The new doctor is very good. And slowly, like a receding tide, the heart rhythm on the monitor began to decrease. 100, 90, 80. Until it returned to its calm baseline of 70 beats per minute. There was no more doubt. It wasn't an echo. It wasn't a recording. It was a consciousness that heard, felt, and reacted. Arthur was there. His mind, his vital energy, or whatever it is, was trapped in that room, in that machine. An invisible prisoner, whose only means of communication with the world was through the universal language of a pulsating heart. I left that hospital at dawn, with the recording on my tablet and a heavy soul. I had found the answer, but the answer generated a moral and ethical dilemma, 1,000 times more frightening than any monster. What do we do now? Claire and I talked for hours. If we reveal this to the world, the hospital will become a circus. Arthur's family, who have already buried him, will be thrown into a whirlwind of confusion and pain. Claire will certainly lose her job and her license. And Arthur? What would happen to him? Would he become an experiment, a subject of study, his peace invaded by scientists, mediums, and the curious? The other option is silence, leaving the monitor unplugged, effectively killing Arthur a second time, cutting his only connection to existence, condemning him to an absolute and silent solitude. Or we can leave things as they are, allow him to continue his quiet, anonymous existence, being cared for by a team of nurses who guard his secret. It's the hardest choice I have ever faced, and that's why today I don't have a conclusion, just a question which I extend to all of you. What defines a life? A body that breathes, or the consciousness that inhabits it? If consciousness survives the body, is that a miracle, a second chance? Or is it the cruelest of prisons? And what is our duty to a life we cannot see, but can prove, without a shadow of a doubt, that it still feels? I ask you to leave your reflections in the comments, with as much respect as possible. Arthur's story deserves it. If this report made you question the boundary between life and death, subscribe to the Enigma channel and hit the bell. Together, we can continue to explore these profound questions that science and spirituality try, each in their own way, to answer. I don't know what the next case will be. I need some time to digest this one. But I feel that the universe, now that it knows I'm listening, won't be silent for long. Thank you for your sensitivity. Until next time.